A demo from Marpos looking at wireless gauge that uses augmented reality. That and more when we come back. And welcome back, one and all, to Quality Digest Live for November 30th, 2018. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Mike Richmond, publisher of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest Editor-in-Chief, Dirk Ducharme. Okay, so many times on this show, we have talked about the problem with siloed organizations, where each department or team or site kind of does their own thing, independent of the other. So not only does this lead to a lot of duplicated efforts, obviously, as each silo kind of does the same thing over and over, but also a lack of information flow between these groups means that not everyone always has the information that they need to do their job properly. So this same idea comes into play when we simply think about one function. So let's say the quality function, where we think of quality management just about getting rid of the bad, reducing defects, eliminating waste, handling customer complaints and corrective actions. But the quality function is more than that. It's more than just that little narrow silo. It's also about building the capabilities of your organizations and the people so that they can realize the good. And this requires something what we call systems thinking, understanding how the quality function fits into other aspects of the organization. So here to talk a little bit about systems thinking and other great stuff is Nicole Radziwill, a data scientist and quality practice leader at Intellex. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Dirk. How are you guys doing?
And I should say that Nicole is joining us via audio, just by phone today, not by Skype, so you will hear her voice.
So, Nicole, let's start with this one. For quality managers, what would you say is the importance of systems thinking? I mean, and how does that really differ from the way that many quality managers or maybe their bosses view the quality function as a whole?
Okay, so systems thinking means looking at any problem from the perspective of the environment it's embedded within, the people who are involved, the social and political and technological and relational considerations, incorporating all of those things into your problem-solving process. So essentially, trying not to solve problems in a vacuum. So if you think about, let's say your company makes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and if you think about the process of making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a linear and mechanistic approach might be, let's whip up a flow chart. Step 1, gather materials. Step 2, open the peanut butter jar. Step 3, put your 2 slices of bread on the counter. Step 4, put your 2 millimeter layer of peanut butter on each slice, or whatever your work instructions tell you to do, and so on and so forth. But the systems approach would incorporate considerations like, where are we making this peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and why are we making it, and for whom? For example, if we were in Japan, we'd have a big problem because it's almost impossible to find peanut butter there. People just don't eat it. Similarly, if your customers might be allergic to peanuts, well, if that's the case, then you've got a bigger problem. And these are the kinds of things that would be considered, if you had taken a systems approach to that peanut butter and jelly manufacturing problem. So most quality managers are great at setting up systems to do the thing right, the thing being production processes or service processes or designing quality into the products. But we also have to do the right thing. And that's a little more difficult because it requires clear and open communication between people who might be in different functional areas. You have to apply judgment. It's difficult to verify whether you actually identified the right thing in the first place. So, this dates all the back, recognizing this issue dates all the way back to 1973. There were these guys named Horst Rittel and Melvin Weber, and they published this fantastic paper called Dilemmas in a General Theory of Planning. But what you may have heard from that paper sometime over the past few decades is the phrase wicked problems. So they talked about lots of characteristics of these wicked problems, but the ones that stood out for me are, number one, you can't fully understand the problem until you've developed some solutions. And that learning process is collaborative and messy and definitely not linear. One of the other things is that there's no stopping rule. So problem solving is going to end when you run out of time or money or people, and there's no guarantee that you'll ever get to an optimal or even a correct solution. As a result, your solutions aren't right or wrong, but better than what you had before, or worse than what you had before, or good enough or not good enough. So, with these wicked problems, each one is going to be completely unique because they're situated at a particular time, in a particular place, with particular people involved, and the environment around you is changing constantly. And you might even not be able to observe those changes or detect those changes. So, wicked problems are things like what features should be in our product roadmap, not just getting them delivered effectively, but which one should be there in the first place, or what should our mission statement be, or what strategic goals should we pursue. And so if you work in quality management, pretty much all the problems you faced are wicked problems, because you have to coordinate people and machines and resources and information, and the problems are messy, the solutions are rarely going to be optimal, and everything is always changing. So systems thinking can help provide a more global perspective on this process and help you reduce the risk of adapting to those changing circumstances.
You had in your article you had what I thought was a quote from Russell Acuff that I think kind of encapsulated maybe everything that you said there. Maybe we can parse that a little bit. I'll read the quote here. You quote Russell Acuff as saying, until managers take into account the systemic nature of their organizations, most of their efforts to improve their performance are doomed to failure. If we have a system of improvement that is directed at improving the parts taken separately, you can be absolutely sure that the performance of the whole will not be improved. So let's parse that a little bit. I'm going to take a look at both halves of that. So the first one, until managers take into account the systemic nature of their organizations, most of their efforts to improve the performance are doomed to failure. So what is he saying there?
So I'm going to use a really strange anecdote here, but it's kind of fun, and it gets the point of, I think, what Acuff's message was across. So in the early 1950s, there was a really big malaria outbreak in Borneo. So the World Health Organization, they went in and they sprayed DDT, which is a really powerful chemical, to kill the mosquitoes and try and get rid of the malaria. And that worked, but unfortunately the DDT also interacted with the thatched roofs on people's houses. And so their roofs started to dissolve. At the same time, all the DDT on the houses, there were lots of feral cats, and so they would rub up against the walls of the houses, and so the DDT got on the cats. The cats ate lizards. That was one of their food sources. The lizards had eaten the poisoned insects that were poisoned by the DDT. And so everything started to die, the cats, the lizards, the insects. And as a result, the rat population went up. So there were no cats to eat the rats. So the rats started, reproducing like crazy. And people started to die because typhus and the plague were spreading. So they wanted to get rid of the malaria, but the actions that they took ended up introducing typhus and the plague. So what did the World Health Organization do? And this is kind of funny. They parachuted 14,000 live cats into Borneo to help control the rat problem, which was good, but people were still getting sick. So the moral of the story is that World Health Organization didn't take a systems approach to solve the malaria problem, and they ended up introducing new problems like typhus, plague, homelessness, and an out-of-control cat problem. So, this kind of example shows that there's a difference between quality management, which is executing activities in a way that helps you satisfy your requirements and meet your goals, and business excellence. And a systems approach is going to help your organization shift closer to that goal of excellence. Quality management approaches like Baldrige, they do have at their core a push towards aligning strategy and tactics to make sure we do the right thing, even if we aren't as efficient or effective in making that happen. So, if your ship is sailing slowly in the right general direction, you might actually arrive, but if you're moving really fast the wrong way, or if you're changing directions significantly and frequently, there's a chance you might never get there. So our management systems can help us, prevent that. And the webinar that we have prepared for next Tuesday, that's going to take a look at all the different components of a quality management system from the perspective of the software. How the software elements relate to one another, and how we might approach using quality management software from a systems perspective, so we can, do the right thing in addition to doing the things right.
All right, and perfect. You kind of stole my thunder there. You're right. If you want to hear more interesting stories like cats being parachuted down, then Nicole is the one who will have those stories for you.
There will definitely be a couple more interesting stories on Tuesday. Yep.
So if you're interested in this topic, the systems approach, what it can bring to you, as opposed to thinking of, as Akoff said, looking at each little part separately. If you're interested in this, we are bringing you a webinar, as Nicole said, next week, titled SPC and FMEA, Integrating Systems Thinking into Your Quality Architecture to Drive Improvement, which kind of says it all. Nicole, who we're talking to right now, will be your presenter. I'll be your host. So check it out. The event is coming Tuesday, December 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. There's a link to register in Nicole's article, as well as underneath the player page down there if you're watching on our main page. Also, you'll be getting numerous emails inviting you to come join us. So do that. Look for those emails, click on those links, sign up, and be prepared for an interesting talk, because Nicole always gives interesting webinars. So, Nicole, thanks for joining us.
Thank you too. See you Tuesday.
Okay, see you then.
Have a good weekend. Thanks, Nicole.
Okay.
Well, Dirk, that was fascinating because,
parachuting cats.
Well, as great as the parachuting cats were, I have to say the 2 millimeters of peanut butter, I couldn't go with that. Because I that wouldn't fly with me.
It's like you get out your little caliper and you go,
no, that's not nearly enough.
Yeah, I bet Marpaz has a gauge who will let us.
Well, I'd be more like a meter of peanut butter on about a millimeter of bread is what I usually.
That's kind of what I do.
With a fork and knife.
It was interesting what she was saying is that, and this happens all too often. And in fact, sadly, I wish we could get into a little bit more. We're seeing that here play out in Chico, where there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking about why this fire, the campfire that came through and devastated Paradise, which is right up the road from us. Why that happened. You should have done this. You should have done that. And the fact is that a lot of times you try to do the right thing, to mitigate a problem, in this case, let's say a forest fire, but you don't know what you don't know, and you start working on something, but it actually causes other problems that you don't always foresee unless you have a systems approach and have the ability to look at every little aspect. What do we affect if we do this? What kind of problems might it cause above and even though we're trying to solve one problem?
Yeah, I mean, unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences.
Is that an systems approach really tries to say, well, we're going to try to really understand what those consequences are going into a program.
Right.
So in other words, if you're going to try to fulfill customer requirements, you don't want to fulfill a requirement here and then sub-optimize something over there where the customer says, well, the heck with you, you didn't really deliver. Right. Well, yes, sure, I said I wanted this, but didn't you realize when you gave me that over here was going to be messed up? So if you don't have that systems approach, if you don't look at it as a holistic thing, you're never really going to get to really the customer requirements, which are to have a good outcome, really. Right. I mean, the good outcome is a broad definition, but you need to be thinking in those terms, not in terms of what just the individual pieces of that are.
Exactly.
So
you'll like Nicole's webinars, by the way.
It's going to be a good one. She always does a good job. This is like the third or fourth webinar we've done with Nicole, so that should be a good one. All right, I think we're going to move on now to our next segment, I believe. The digital transformation of industry continues to accelerate apace. In our little corner of the world, of course, there's no question that the culture and strategy and the tools forming the Quality 4.0 mindset are changing the game for those in a variety of industrial sectors. In his recent QD article, Quality 4.0 in Life Sciences, Selecting Technology for Competitive Advantage, Dan Jacob of LNS Research delves into the nature of Quality 4.0 for those within highly regulated environments. In particular, it's clear that best-in-class life sciences companies are finding great benefit in a structured approach to Quality 4.0 when it comes to innovation. And as usual, as we all know, it's the support of top management that truly makes or breaks Quality 4.0 adoptions for those organizations. So, joining us now to chat about these issues is the man himself, Dan Jacob. Dan, welcome back to Quality Digest Live.
Dan the man.
Thanks, guys. How are you today?
All right, how are you?
Good.
Awesome. Okay, so this question we ask everybody whenever they come on the show to talk about Quality 4.0 is, okay, what is Quality 4.0? I mean, we're hearing the term like daily now, and I'm not sure everybody is exactly clear just what we mean when we say it.
Right. It's a great question, and I think it's I'm glad you're hearing about it regularly. And we just were down at the Quality 4.0 forum that ASQ put on a few weeks ago, and it's a great thing to see that the attendance had increased about 60% year over year. But there's still hundreds of people there instead of thousands, and a lot of them were coming to really learn about it. So the appetite in the market is really to try to get educated on this, which is a great thing. The way we've defined Quality 4.0 is that it's a digital transformation of quality, which let's explore that a little bit and what that really means. So first of all, when we first defined the term and what Quality 4.0 was a year ago, there was 11 elements we wanted manufacturers to consider. And really what it all comes back to is that Quality 4.0 is an opportunity for manufacturers to get new insights and for those insights to impact quality. That starts with connectivity in data. So you think about where a lot of the market was at in years past, with spreadsheets and emails and maybe some homegrown systems to manage core quality process data. And unfortunately, actually, a lot of the market's still there today. But as you build that out into enterprise wide quality processes and get that data under control, you start getting new insights. And that's really traditional quality, but it's very important to where we're going in the future. On top of that now, we have new insights you can gather from connected machines and manufacturing operations. So that's not necessarily anything new. We've had connected machinery, but in many cases to gather the data from those assets, you would only do that, it was very expensive, so you'd only do that for your most critical assets. And if you look at connected products, in some cases, there's manufacturers like elevators and aircraft engines and others who've had connected products for decades. But by and large, that wasn't really the case. And so now you've got this opportunity again, from a connectivity perspective, to start gathering data from connected products. Another opportunity to connect is to connect with suppliers, right? So to start getting more insights from suppliers, to start getting data from both the products they're providing to you in their processes in a more seamless fashion. You can get data from the customer directly. For those who are in consumer goods and those who have maybe over-the-counter drugs, for instance, there's a new digital voice of the customer. That's what I'm starting to refer to this as, where you're able to gather data from online marketplaces and gathering data from social media, so you can understand how your product compares, what the complaints, you start quantifying those complaints and understanding what the attributes are that lead to success and those that are inhibiting your success. So you get some really valuable insights back into the beginning of the product development process. And again, this idea of, connected the product itself. In a lot of cases, when we look out in the marketplace, if you launch a product, it's been difficult to understand what happens to that product after you launch it. And now you can get new insights there. So that's really the connectivity that gives you the data. And then there's the analytics piece that takes that data and drives new insights. So let's go back to the manufacturing operations example I gave earlier. Let's say you connected some assets, right? You're able to track data from between multiple stations in a production line. That's actually a manufacturing operations use case for Industry 4.0. It's not specifically quality, but if you begin to take metrology data associated with a product that's coming off that line and using that metrology data in concert with the manufacturing operations data, now you can start driving new insights that can look at predictive quality to understand what the variations in manufacturing operations may result in negative outcomes in your product. And that can be extended very broadly. You can begin to look at, what are the critical parameters, for instance, that I have on this product that really means something to the customer as you expand your scope and your focus of this data and the insights you can drive.
And Dan,
so hopefully I give you a little bit of detail. It's, again, at a high level, it's this idea of looking at a lot of these, the data and really the new insights. But insights by themselves aren't transformative. So one of the key pieces is how do those insights, it's not just a matter of doing it faster or maybe even a little more accurately. It's how does that stuff impact your product? How does it impact your culture? How does it impact your processes? And there's a lot of very discrete examples around how that's manufacturers are using that to drive toward things like close to zero defects or much higher customer engagement in the marketplace or your workforce as well. Connecting very closely with your workforce.
So Dan, you write in your article that life sciences in particular is kind of disproportionately engaged in quality 4.0 innovation. Why is that? And what's the driver behind that level of engagement in your mind?
Well, all manufacturers have a good degree of engagement, but life sciences has some very specific, specialized requirements that are driving, the need for digital transformation. Some of these things, there's really three of them. One of them is the regulatory compliance landscape. It gets increasingly complex. If you look at EU MDR, some of the regulatory information that you need to submit in order to get your product accepted to be able to be sold in a given marketplace. There's many different elements here associated with regulatory compliance, and it's getting increasingly complex. So just the idea of digitalization to get your arms around that data and not let it boil you down, because all that stuff has a huge impact. We talked about operations a second ago. You talked about service. The more regulatory compliance aspects that are there, in many cases, we hear from manufacturers that they're focusing more on the compliance than necessarily focusing on delivering the quality in the product. And that's pharmaceuticals and medical devices. And obviously the intention is to deliver the highest quality you can, but it becomes extremely distracting when you've got all these different elements that need to be considered. So that idea of digitally transforming just to meet the regulatory compliance in a scalable fashion is one element. A second is there's a lot of complexity here around the value chain. So CMOs, CROs, connecting all that in, and the value of having visibility through the value chain is a critical element. The FDA and others are beginning to focus on that as well, looking at blockchain through the supply chain for the drug supply chain. So there's a lot of value to getting your arms around that to avoid potential recalls and major escapes. And the last one's really around this idea of real world data. So the FDA has begun to really open open up to real world data, and that real world data could be things like data in clinical trials from wearables or from mobile devices that patients are interacting with. It could be in-service data of devices and creating a digital twin around devices that can be used back in simulations during the product development cycle. So it's becoming much more open to that, and that opens up the door for life science manufacturers to do things like transform the way that they look at regulatory compliance in-house. Regulatory compliance with some of these changes can have a substantial impact on a life science manufacturer's ability to compete in the marketplace. If you can take that real world data and use that in simulations, and use that in your clinical trials, for instance, as well, or connect that in with your regulatory information management systems and your product submissions, you can begin to cut down the amount of time to market that it takes you to launch that product. And then therefore, you can also connect this to the patient. So looking at patient outcomes, how well does this product suit the patient? What are the specific issues that we can address in further product development? So there's a lot of opportunity here to transform the market, the life sciences market, around regulatory compliance. And many of the manufacturers are really examining this in detail and exploring it today. So when we talk to one of the things we've seen in pharmaceutical, for instance, is that there's been the arrival of a new role, the digital quality leader. And that digital quality leader is really there to help build out this digital transformation and help advocate quality's position and regulatory compliance position in digital transformation of these pharmaceutical companies. So we're seeing a lot of real evidence of that, practical use cases being deployed in the marketplace, but also new rules that are being developed to help champion digital transformation of quality and regulatory compliance in life sciences.
Well, Dan, Jacob, always a lot of great information from you and from LNS Research. Thanks for joining us today on Quality Digest Live. Really appreciate your insights into Quality 4.0, 4.0, and life sciences. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Dan. Talk to you later. Good stuff there.
Yeah. LNS Research, a lot of really good stuff that comes out of them, and Dan and his the entire crew at LNS are really knowledgeable people. So
as you can see there, they have a lot of good information there.
Yeah, and keep your eye open for. They do a lot of webinars on this topic, so keep your eyes open.
There's actually
for
an
those,
ebook that in his article you can check out and register for. Okay. Well, now a few months back, Dirk and I and probably the rest of the manufacturing world were in Chicago for IMTS, and while we were there, we had a chance to see a really interesting use of augmented reality (AR) technology from Marpos, and this is their iWave 2 handheld wireless gauge, again with augmented reality technology. And Dirk is going to get a close-up look at it for that equipment from Matteo Zoin, Marpos Senior Manager and Head of New Market Development. So take it away, guys.
Thanks. As Mike said, with me in the studio today is Matteo from Marpos. And Matteo, before we actually get into the product that you're going to show us today, the iWave 2 and augmented reality and so forth, why don't you just tell us a little bit about Marpos and kind of what you're doing and how that all ties into kind of the future of metrology, so to speak.
Sure. So Marpos supply high precision measurement, inspection and process control systems across all industries. Our mission is to develop and offer and bring to market innovative measurement components, products and machines for focusing on the needs of end user and system integrators across all markets. And today I'm here to show you one of our breakthrough solutions developed integrating our leading edge technologies and one of them is the augmented reality.
Augmented reality, okay, which we hear a lot about. Obviously, more and more we hear more and more about augmented reality and how it ties into. And that's what we're going to look at a system today that encompasses several different pieces that tie into augmented reality, right? Okay.
Exactly. We can start talking about the two wireless bore gauge. Okay. This device that they are standing in their inductive charging station, they are completely sealed IP67. And they ensure that there is no production stop to replace batteries or charging these batteries.
Yeah, and you mentioned wired. We've actually had these on the show before, and what's really interesting about these is, as you mentioned, they're wireless, but not wireless just in terms of communicating data, but because they're completely sealed, they're also wireless charging. There's no power cord that plugs in, which allows them to be, what'd you say, IP67? IP67.
So protection, complete sealed, protection, yes, from water and coolant. And what is another characteristic that makes this product really flexible is the fact that you can replace the nose piece. So this product is used to perform a dimensional check. In this case, just for this type of application inside diameter, it can be outside, just replacing what is the nose piece. Okay. And this device, like you said correctly, is communicating through Bluetooth low energy with our measurement software, Quick SPC. Okay. Our software is able to elaborate and do like the basic statistical process control analysis, but also, more important for this type of application, create the connection and interact with any device implementing the augmented reality.
Okay, and that's what we're going to look at now, right?
Yeah. Okay. Before looking specifically on this type of application, I'd like to introduce you more about the augmented reality.
What augmented reality is.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So in the world of the industrial Internet of Things, where Marpos is a great strategic partner, we have different, we hear every day talking about machine learning, artificial intelligence, virtual reality and augmented reality. All of them, they are basically helping all of us to manage all the big data that are coming and we are available through our manufacturing processes. And in this way, we are helping also our customers to improve their productivity, their quality, their cost. And what is doing augmented reality is adding more data to the context. Okay. So basically, on what you see through the glasses, you will see much more. You will see other information. So just give you an example. So already this augmented reality is implemented in different fields, like in medical, in the military, in the manufacturing, for assembling, for rendering materials. And in this case, with this application where we have an example, this one is a manufacturing part that is a cylinder head of an engine, but can be any type of part. We are helping the operator to go through a step sequence, so carry out any operation in a shorter time, thereby avoiding any mistake without training.
Okay. So I mean, just to clarify a little bit, augmented reality versus virtual reality. With augmented reality, you're let's say through your glasses, you're actually seeing the actual. You're looking through regular glasses. It's just glasses, and you see through, and you see your actual objects and your tools and so forth. But overlaid on top of that can be digital information. It can be text. It can be pictures. It
Right.
can be arrows. It could be anything you want.
Yes.
And that's superimposed on top of what you're actually looking at, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
More data to make it more meaningful.
Okay.
And just to give you an example, if you think about in the new cars, the driver, sometimes in the windshield, they have the head-up display with all this type of information that are helping the driver to drive carefully and better.
So they're looking through the windshield, but they're seeing information in front of them at the same time.
And this is the same,
Okay,
same
okay.
concept. Through the smart glasses, we are seeing like our part with all this additional information that it can make more meaningful what we have in front of us as a contest.
Okay.
Just to say that the augmented reality can be implemented also through a smartphone, a tablet, but just with wearable devices like those smart glasses, really we exploit the big advantage that the fact that the operator is hands-free.
Okay, sure.
So we can start.
So you put on the goofy looking glasses.
Yes, and we turn on our devices.
And when you turn those on, now those glasses are communicating via Bluetooth
Yes.
to a computer that's off to the side somewhere.
Basically, with this device, there is an Android base, like our phone. There is an app that automatically starts the communication with our measurement software.
Okay.
And once it starts, it's going to show us exactly which is the handle
Yeah, let me take a look here.
to grab.
Okay, so I put these on. Okay. Okay, sure. So I'm actually seeing all the objects in front of me, but I'm seeing some text, and also I'm seeing some blue sparkles over the tool, which I understand means that's the instruction that's telling me to pick up this tool, or if I'd
Yes.
seen sparkles over here, it would be telling me to pick up that
Exactly.
tool.
Like now that is running a video
Okay.
where one of my colleague is grabbing this handle and performing exactly.
So that's what you would, this is a video, but that's what you would see through the glasses itself.
Right.
Okay. So you'd see that text at the bottom, you'd see your hand coming through because you're actually looking through the glasses.
And you
Okay.
can customize
Okay.
the text, you can customize any of this information going through.
Now it's flashing, it's actually telling him where to put that probe to measure. It's superimposing that digital
Yeah.
information on top of the image. Okay.
Perfect. And now it's grabbing the second one, handle, and perform the steps required. Obviously, this is just an example. We can create any type of application with any type of devices, add many of them, many more.
Yeah, we're
many
just
steps.
we're just using those two particular measurement tools, but you could use anything.
In
right?
the end, what is very useful, you have the measure summary with all the measurements
Oh, okay.
and your direct feedback on the part.
Okay, so when they're done, all that information then is projected inside the glasses.
Yes.
That summary information is projected inside the glasses, so they would know whether that part.
Yep.
They could know immediately whether that part passed or failed at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the operator has an immediate real-time feedback about the part, if it's like good or scrap.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, you don't have to use these specific glasses, right? I mean, it's any company's smart glasses as long as they can communicate
Right.
with the Marpos software, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
As a Marpos, what we offer and we develop are the gauging system, and we offer also the capability to develop the interface through a client between our measurement software and another part that is related to the hardware and software for this device, in this case smart glasses. So
Okay.
any software house, any other can work on deals and develop the application according to the needs of the customers, and we have the capabilities to interact, to exchange messages and guide any operator through this sequence.
Okay. And so are you seeing a lot of interest in this type of technology from your customers?
Yeah, we have to think that the factory metrology, the goal is to speed up the processes, avoiding any loss of information, any loss of accuracy. And for that reason, exactly a year ago, we developed, based on one of the needs collected through many customers, the first application, a pick by light, where a laser beam was helping the operator to grab the right handle.
Oh, it would just point to the right handle and tell them where to go. Okay.
But this was not sufficient to create really an application similar to the augmented reality, because the operator still needs the help to have a feedback through a computer with our measurement software.
Sure, a little computer would have to be sitting there with a screen somewhere, yeah.
Whereas the big step forward with the augmented reality is the fact that all this information are staying in the same context, in the same screen.
Okay. And so what else is going on with Marpos in terms of keeping in touch with newer technologies like augmented reality and so forth going down the line in order to meet the needs of your future customers?
In this world, like I said, of an industrial Internet of Things, Marpos is always act like a pioneer, like finding a new ways of streamlining the customer operation manufacturing. And we are always doing this one, trying to find the right blend between experience and innovation. So we usually say that we are one partner for many solutions.
All right. Well, Matteo, thanks for showing us. Thanks for showing
My
us
pleasure.
augmented reality for inspection using the iWave 2, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, and there you have it. Yes, as Dirk mentioned with Matteo, that is the iWave 2 with augmented reality, handheld wireless gauge. Really interesting tech corner there from Matteo of Marpos along with Dirk. Dirk, nice job as always.
Yeah. Interesting.
That one
you know,
together.
we're seeing a lot more. We are seeing a lot more uses for augmented reality. This is one of the first inspection applications I've seen it. We typically see it a lot for layout, where they're using augmented reality for doing, let's say, like composite layouts and that sort of stuff, or for tool. For people, let's say, working on aircraft, where they look for the glasses and it's telling them where to put their screw gun and that type of thing. So the inspection aspect of it is really interesting.
Really cool, yes. All right, well, that's our show. A lot of thank yous to offer this week, of course, and thanks, of course, in reverse order. We're going to start with Matteo and the team at Marpos for coming into the studio, Matteo, and showing us again the iWave 2.
There we go.
Handheld wireless gauge with augmented reality. Really great tech corner there. So thanks, Matteo, for coming in and showing that to us. Also, thanks to Dan Jacob of LNS Research for joining us via Skype to chat about Quality 4.0.
Quality 4.0.
4.0 and life sciences. Really interesting chat there. And then finally, we want to send our appreciation to Nicole Radzewall of Intellex, who Skyped in as well right at the top of the show to tell us about the importance of systems thinking and core tools to improve the performance of your organization. So if you want to learn more about that, be sure to join Nicole and Dirk right here for the webinar SBC and FMEA, Integrating Systems Thinking into Your Quality Architecture to Drive Improvement. And that webinar is coming up this Tuesday, December 4th. There it is right there. This Tuesday, December 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And keep your eye on your email inbox so you can get another reminder about that webinar coming up. You can register if you haven't done so already. A lot of you have registered, but if you'd like to, you can register for that webinar next week, right before the webinar on Tuesday.
That's right.
That's right.
So that's it for today. Thanks to all of you for joining us for Quality Digest Live. And have a great weekend. Yep. And we will see you at the webinar
on Tuesday.
And we will see you next Friday.
That's right. See you then. Bye.